This is your City Council Roundup, a recap of what's happening at City Hall with John Ongaro. The views expressed in this program are solely of those of the host and not necessarily those of the radio station or its partners.
Well, on an official roundup, there wasn't an official meeting last night, but there was a meeting, and it was a standing committee meeting, and so we thought it would be important to bring in the expert. Look who's here. Good morning, John Collin.
Good morning, John Ongaro.
You are city manager. Thank you for making the time to come in. I know it's a busy time of year. There's lots going on. Great meeting last night. It was only an hour. Everybody texted me after 5 o'clock saying, hey, what's going on? It's over already? These standing committee meetings are going quite well. They're a little bit more quick.
Yeah, they are going well. It's not so much the speed thing that I focus on.
Right.
It's what we're finding with the standing committees, and it's exactly what we hope to achieve, is we're actually getting feedback from members of council before we go with the final version of a report to all of council. And that's very powerful. And in the long run, although it may appear like there's more meetings, it's going to save us time.
There was some controversy last week at the city council meeting when one of the councilors called out that the process isn't working because the standing committee in one situation said no to something, but it still came back to council and it passed. So there was a conversation at that meeting about the purpose of these standing committees. But to your point, the purpose is for them to talk it through and figure things out, bring questions to administration before it gets to council to help the process. Isn't that right?
And to give us feedback.
Right.
Ultimately, the only deciding body is city council.
Right.
Standing committees cannot make decisions that bind the corporation,
right,
or that bind,
which is similar to how the committee of the whole ran.
That's correct,
right? We talked about it for hours and hours, and then the city council part was more of a rubber stamp.
Yes,
this is kind of the same, but it makes the discussion more thoughtful.
Well, the difference is now we're getting feedback at an earlier level in the process. We can take that feedback away. We can adjust our report, our recommendations if necessary, based on that feedback, and then provide a full meal deal to council for their decision.
All right, let's get into the good stuff. Last night was a discussion about the turf facility, which I now will have to start calling the TBaytel Multiplex.
Yes, please.
I will do that for you out of respect for TBaytel. But listen, last night's conversation was a little bit confusing to me, and I do pay attention to this stuff. I read the report. We talked about it yesterday on the air. It is let's just say $1.5 million a year to operate the facility. The suggestion from administration yesterday was $650,000 to be put into a reserve fund every year. And honestly, I think this is very smart. The reserve fund will take $650,000 a year so that fund will later pay for upgrades or fixes 20 years down the road. It's not direct. It's not on. You made this point last night. It's not on top of the $1.5 million that we're spending. It's an extra $650 that goes into an account. Why do we not have this account for current infrastructure that we have now? Why is it just starting now?
Well, the short answer, to be blunt, is we could never afford to do that for all of our infrastructure all in one go.
Right.
So we've made a conscious decision in terms of our approach to suggest to council that for new builds, as we move forward from here, we really need to start putting money aside for when we have to rebuild it or renovate it in a significant way. So it's a starting point. If we tried to do this for every piece of infrastructure we own, it's unaffordable. That's why we had to develop an asset management plan that looks out 30 to 50 years in order to catch up.
So to the average person, that $650,000 that'll be new in the upcoming budget that goes into this reserve fund, what is the impact on taxes?
Well, the short answer is we don't know yet. So first of all, we need to understand that the commitment for the TBaytel Multiplex is that it will not cost any money to operate. We are going to try to achieve a balanced budget. So whatever the costs are, something slightly under $1.5 million will be offset by revenues so that we're not actually paying any extra to operate that facility over what we're paying now to provide those sporting activities within the community.
So the revenue is from users. So the users that book the facility, is there a concession stand? Is the popcorn going to make you money? But it's the user fees that are really going to generate
the
that.
user fees will be the primary source of revenue. I mean, we hope to have events in the facility as well. And whenever you have a special event, you can make money off of those special events. So that combined, and we do have the makings of a business plan put together where we believe that we will achieve the revenues we need to offset the cost. Now, that is based on what the user groups have told us their participation levels will be.
That's important to note. So they're telling you how much we're going to use this, how much we're going to rent this space, then you do the math based on that.
And we believe that we will be able to balance the budget. In fact, we believe we might even have a little bit of a surplus. So that leads to your question of how are we going to find this $650,000? Well, first of all, any surplus we make at the TBaytel Multiplex will go towards that $650 that we want to put aside for the future.
Makes sense.
All right, as opposed to just into general revenue for other things.
Gotcha.
We'll do that. Any additional sponsorship money we find that is not required will also go towards that $650,000. But at the end of the day, as part of our capital plan, we may have to find a portion, we will have to find a portion of that $650,000 within our capital plan and put it into a reserve for renewal of the facility.
That makes great sense. Let's talk about the management of this facility. That was the topic last night of whether it should be run by the city or run by a third party. The city, rightfully so, in the report admitted that they are not experts. You are not experts in running indoor turf facilities, but you can run a facility. And so the discussion last night was between should it be third party or city run? Tell everybody what the outcome was last night.
The outcome was the standing committee is fully supportive of it being a city run facility.
Okay.
The ultimate decision is still with council. Again, a standing committee is not a decisive body. But they were fully supportive. In fact, it was a unanimous vote that it be city run. Mm-hmm. So we'll now take that, approach council with our recommendations, and if council supports, then that's what we will do.
Right.
And then we got to get on our bicycles and start pedaling real fast because next October is going to be here before you know it.
Very quick. In that $1.5 million of operating funds, there was also discussion last night that you're going to have to hire a few people. Is that included in that price?
It is.
So this is you now have the full picture of what the cost of this is going to be once it's built and once it's up and running. Are you confident that we're going to be able to generate that revenue to pay the expenses for that building?
I'm confident. Again, I stress that it's based in part on the feedback we've received from the user groups of how much they're going to use the facility. But we have a high level of confidence that we will be able to balance the budget.
Is there a risk that those user groups may find this building unaffordable for them?
I don't think so. Again, based on our modeling, we'll be able to offer user rates that are competitive and comparable to all sorts of other municipalities that have this sort of facility.
All right. Building will be done in October next year.
That's the plan.
All right. Well, we'll talk about the price tag of that another time. All right. Let's get on to the next big thing. Trees are coming down and things are starting to be built for the temporary village. It's finally underway. Where are we at with the status of that build and the preparation for that build and about the operating model for those?
Sure. So first of all, on the build, you're correct. We've now completed our removal of trees at this point in time. We are taking a very cautious approach with the removal of trees. We are only removing the ones we know have to go. Mm-hmm. The site plan is not completely refined yet, so we may have to take out a few more trees. But for now, we're done with tree removal, and now we're into site preparation, soil preparation to be able to build on it. That's the next big step. Then after that, you'll start to see these modular components come in and buildings starting to be established on that site.
Are they being built right now? Where did we land? I apologize. I don't remember where we landed with the tendering of the contracts. But are these buildings being built right now?
It's a local company. They've been awarded the contract, and I don't know their exact construction schedule as to whether they've already started to build on their site. Mm-hmm. But I do know that in the not too distant future, they will start bringing stuff to the temporary village site and start erecting it.
So what about the infrastructure it needed there? Water, sewer, hydro, is that in place on that site?
For the most part. I mean, not the final connections, obviously, because the buildings aren't there yet, but we've extended what needs to be extended to the site.
Do you anticipate people being in there this winter?
No.
So it is still going to be to spring.
As we made clear to council, because of the delays in selection of the site, we are now looking at an end of May completion of the construction.
All of the units?
All of the units will be complete by the end of May. If we are afforded the opportunity, and we just don't know yet, to do a partial opening before that, we would very much wish to do that if possible. But I'm not prepared to commit one way or the other on a partial opening before then.
So this is a good thing. This is what we need. This is the next step in the 10-point plan to get things going with helping people, especially those in encampments. That then leads to the next question. As part of the 10-point plan, there will be now a very, I'm sure, dynamic discussion about the designated encampment sites, which are directly connected to the build of this building. So those that had concerns about where these tents are now and where the encampments are establishing themselves right now, it will now fall under the city's jurisdiction to be able to create designated encampment sites now that that build is underway. Do you have a plan for those sites?
Yeah, well, first of all, in terms of terminology, I'd just like to specify we're talking about allowable tent
Allowable
encampments,
spots, yeah.
right? Designated gives a bit of a connotation that we're going to do a whole lot of things to these sites.
Gotcha.
We're not.
Yeah.
We're going to provide basic things such as litter pickup and portable toilets, and hopefully a source of fresh potable water for them. But so we have to designate up to 3 allowable tent encampment areas. I think based on numbers, we will have to have all 3 up and running for this coming spring. The process is underway now. We have begun stakeholder engagement to develop the criteria we're going to use to select the sites. In fact, there's a very important meeting in early December, 2 December's a date, where we're going to sit down with all the subject matters in the city.
Great.
The subject matter experts in the city, the not-for-profits, those who are delivering services now, to talk through and come to a common understanding as to what the criteria for selection would be.
Okay.
We will then take that.
Wait, I'm just going to pause you there.
Yeah.
Where did we leave with council? Because that was quite a discussion that night, that council wanted a hand in picking those locations.
And they will. It is their decision to make.
It's their decision to approve it. Is it part of their discussions to choose the locations?
No, we will go to council with our recommendations on the criteria.
Okay.
And in the same report, recommend the sites that we believe should be allowable tent encampment
So it's a
areas.
similar process than what we did with the temporary village.
That's correct.
All right. So when it gets in front of council, I'm not being the naysayer, but when it gets in front of council and none of them like these ideas, are we going to start the process of delaying this too? Do you have a plan for when it gets in front of council? You're going to have a bunch of options for them, so we're not finding ourselves in the situation we were with the temporary village.
Well, first of all, I'll mention there's not a bunch of options that exist.
Right.
There are very limited options for these allowable tent encampment areas. We're going to go in with our recommendation for the 3 that should be allowed. And if council is not supportive of those, then we will go away and we will explore other possibilities. But again, we will have thought through the criteria very carefully with all of the subject matter experts. And my hope is that our report, our recommendation to council will be compelling enough that they will support it.
All right. This is why we played the disclaimer at the beginning of this. So this is opinion, and you're probably not going to answer the question, but I'm going to try. When these designated encampment locations, these locations come from council, one of them inevitably is going to be Simpson Street, where the encampment currently exists. The reason I say that is that's I would say the largest encampment area. It's the longest standing encampment area. And now that we're building in the center of town with the temporary village, my opinion is that Simpson Street location is probably going to be one of those on your list. If hypothetically that happens, the dispute will then become again that we're spending all this money in Victoriaville. We need to move these people out of there because we want to make sure that it's okay for the BIA. That was part of the fight and part of the discussion with Miles Street. When we get to that stage, what is the city's response to these are designated encampment areas? These are current encampment areas that are popular, that these people are comfortable in. We don't want to move them. What happens when council says, no, we can't have any in the South Ward because of the revitalization?
Well, that's a hypothetical question that I'm not going to answer. You're right.
Yeah, I figured.
Listen, I'll say this. We require an allowable tent encampment area in the South Core. We
Absolutely.
require one in the North Core, and we require a third somewhere else. Yes, we are investing heavily in the South Core at this point with Victoriaville, but we've also invested heavily in the North Core. We've also invested heavily in the intercity area. So all parts of the city have investments to try to achieve growth. We must get away from what we have now, where encampments are anywhere and everywhere.
Yeah.
The approach is to establish allowable encampment areas. The challenge is we have a temporary village of 80 shelters. We have to have a number of people who will voluntarily establish themselves in the allowable encampment areas. We don't have room to put everyone who's in a tent in the temporary village. So we have to choose areas whereby there will be a willingness to occupy. So that will become a very key aspect of this as we move forward. Put another way, choose 3 allowable tent encampment areas on the outskirts of the city, away from everything and everyone, would simply not work. We would not have the shelter space necessary to oblige people to move.
You make a valid point, but with all due respect, taking those encampments and putting them outskirts of town away from services is similar to what we're doing at Hilliard.
Well, first of all, Hilliard is not on the outskirts of the city.
But it is away from services.
Yes, and we have a plan in place to deal with that in terms of not only our transit system, but a dedicated shuttle service for the encampment to bring people to the services they need.
Are you confident that when these encampment sites come in front of council, can we say it'll be in the new year?
We're planning January, February timeframe.
Okay, so are you confident, though, that we're going to get these established in a timely manner, or do you anticipate that we're going to have the long discussions like we did with the temporary village?
Yeah, the short answer is I don't know.
We'll hope for the best. Yeah?
Yes.
All right. What else is happening? We're running out of time. I wanted to talk about the infrastructure stuff, especially, and Danny's giving us a look now because we're talking too much. But 2 things. I said this to you off the air. I'm going to say it to you on the air. I don't know what's happened with Innova Park in the last 30 years, but it is a ghost town. And then all of a sudden, in the last 6 months or a year, it is exploding with opportunity and with investment. I was blown away by that latest announcement in the discussion at council last week or a couple weeks ago about the new location at the corner of Gulf Links and the Harbor Expressway that everybody knows has got a McDonald's on it. It says it on your site map. But there's hotels on there. It's a $45 million investment, and this isn't the Costco. Oops. I said Costco. Sorry. This isn't that large big box retailer site. This is another one. So that strip of Gulf Links all of a sudden is exploding. That's fantastic. It's huge for the tax base. It's great for the community. Why did the Innova Park sit empty for so long and now all of a sudden it's blowing up?
I really can't answer that question, John. I don't know, but I will suggest to you that we have a very strong value proposition for businesses to establish themselves in Thunder Bay. There's a need for the businesses here, and the businesses can make a profit by being here. We are pushing that strongly in every venue that we can, and sometimes you just need one to generate a bit of a buzz that then gets you 2 more, and then 4 more after that, and 6 more after that.
I wonder what that one would be. Anyway, that would inspire everybody else. Are we done, or is there more coming? You know things. I know you know things. This is a big development. There's got to be more coming.
We're not done.
Yeah. Do you anticipate more announcements soon?
I think the next major announcements are a little ways off. Certainly not in the next few weeks or a couple of months. But, we're continuing to explore all avenues. There's an adage in economic development where you have to have 10 to 20 leads to get one to stick.
Yeah.
Right? So this is not easy work, and it's certainly not quick work. But more will be on the way for sure. Again, our value proposition in this city, this is a great city to live in, to work in, and to invest in. And people are starting to believe that.
I'm going to say this publicly, and I don't think it's said enough, and I wish that more would say it, but thank you for your team's work on all of this. This is significant, what is happening in the last year, 6 months, and this does not come with a bunch of executives and administrators sitting with their feet on their desk. This is hard work, and for you guys to pull this off the way that you have, and for this absolute... This is fantastic investment that is actually going to change our landscape. This doesn't come by luck. It comes from hard work. So to you and your team, thank you very much, because this is a big deal. We're looking at well over $1 million in tax revenue on these builds, right?
On one of those builds,
on one of them,
you're looking at well over $1 million.
We have not seen multi-million-dollar tax revenue increases in decades here. This is a big deal for the city.
It is a big deal for the city, and the team is great, and thank you for recognizing them. I also want to recognize the business community. They're all in at working with us to try to expand and grow this city.
Yeah, it's going the right direction. So thank you for that. John, thank you for this. Danny's kicking us out of here because we were talking too much. We could talk all day, but we will, let's catch up again to talk about the budget that's coming next month, right? It'll be announced at council. We'll go through that. There's a lot on the way, but hats off to you and the team for everything that's happened up to this date. So appreciate the time this morning.
Thanks very much.